I'm to SLEDS training officially since Nora hit the recording, but it hasn't popped up yet. Did you record?
I did hit it. Oh, there it is.
So welcome to ECLDS+SLEDS Network training. I did want to let you know that everyone got the invite, but if you don't need the training, you don't have to sit in. This is just extra for the, guess we have so many new staff this year. And I did want to ask you as a group where you wanted to start. Should we do a SLEDS 101 or should we jump right into reports? Does anyone have a preference? Should we do 101? Most of you probably know, so I can send out that PowerPoint after this training, but we can just jump right into reports. So in terms of training, we had grouped these into enrollment, completion, and developmental education was the first training module. So we're going to go over that. I have not given this presentation in quite a while. So if I miss something, please jump in, Megan, Alyssa, those of you that have been around longer, and add as you see fit. This is like, it's been like 3 years since I gave this training. All right. So I'm going to share screen. Thumbs up. You can see it. And it's big enough.
It can be bigger. It's pretty small.
I can't make it bigger. It's on a giant monitor for me.
Well, then it's big enough, I guess.
Okay. Well, let's try the next slide. Let's see.
Oh. Okay, can anybody read that?
This is Myra. I also put it on a big screen so I can read it.
I think you just need a second monitor, Nora.
I think so.
Okay. So the good news is that we are just going to start by showing you where the SLEDS homepage is, and it's at sleds.mn.gov. So you can always bring up, we actually encourage you to bring up this page on your own while you're going along with the training so you can interact and explore as we walk through the various reports. This page is clearly way out of date because Kara hasn't worked on SLEDS for more than 5 years, and this will now say Nora, and Rachel hasn't been here since 2020. So eventually we do need a new slide deck. So Nora, just jot that down. The homepage covers who the main SLEDS coordinators are, which are Nora, Orion, Myra, and then Steve will be added. You'll have 4 on the front page. Also, it covers the overview of SLEDS and what the mission of SLEDS is, which is to identify viable pathways for individuals in achieving successful outcomes in education, work, and I would say early childhood and life, we would add. We are governed by the P20 partnership, though sometimes they don't remember that they govern us, but they're actually our official in state legislation governance committee. So the first report we are gonna go to is an enrollment in college. So now I'm gonna end sharing and just go to the live website. So you too can bring this up at sleds.mn.gov. And a smart person would have brought it up before starting the training, but that did not occur to me. All right. So if you're on the SLEDS website, this was the homepage that we first showed you. And then I'm just going to go down this left menu and jump right here to enrollment. Great. And I got to move my notes over to my other screen. Perfect. All right. So on the enrollment report and all of SLEDS reports, the first thing you want to do is look at this top pane. This will tell you what the report is about. So these reports are talking about, do high school graduates move on to college? And when you click the eye bubble, it explains that the report shows the number of Minnesota public high school graduates who enroll in post-secondary education, which institutions they attended, when they enrolled, the number of credits they took, and the number of developmental education credits they enrolled in. As you navigate the page, you want to make sure and show everybody the filtering options. So if you click this banner, it's always going to default to the last graduation year of data we have on the public website. But if you click it, Users can choose an individual school or district or region, a different high school graduation year going back to 2007, a primary disability type, a race ethnicity category, a gender category, or an other criteria category, which is English language, English learner, special ed, free or reduced price meals, rigorous course taking, and CTE. Some of these definitions are, you want to make sure you understand what they are. So if you click the filter definitions button, it'll bring up a Word document. It should bring up a Word document that explains what all of the filters are. So it'll start and explain exactly which counties are covered in each region. And then it'll tell you for students graduating between 2006 and 2010, here's the definitions by race ethnicity category, and then 2011 to the present, and then the other criteria. So this is now changed, so we should update this. Cool. Questions about the filter definitions? Or filtering in general?
So this is a filtering in general question. And I asked this when we had our meeting here at Southeast Service Cooperative. Can we get a filter by a service cooperative?
Oh, yes, it's in the
Section on
list.
there
It's
as
in,
well?
it's on the list, Mike.
Okay.
We added
Okay.
it to the list of IT upgrades we requested in August. Myra?
Yes, I'm wondering what is the process to get additional filters added?
You meet with Nora and explain to her what filters you'd like added. She discusses with the SLEDS coordinators, and then we do some prep work and talk it over with IT. And then they're actually reviewed by the SLEDS Research and Data Committee before they go public.
Okay. So would I then have to write a proposal, or is it just the idea that goes
Just
to
the
that?
idea
The idea. Okay.
for
Yeah,
meeting with Nora and the coordinators. Well,
yeah, I'm
okay.
sure if you have an idea, we can word it and work it out together. That's, yeah, it's not all on you.
Okay. Okay.
the written documentation comes in when you need to write specifications for IT. Like for disability filters, we had to tell them exactly each code and what the group labels would be.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then you'll do something similar for research and data as you walk through it with them. Yeah. Right. If a user selects too many filters, they won't actually see any data because we do suppress cell sizes under 10. For most of the categories on this demographic filters, but not all of them. Race is actually one of the exceptions. You also have these little plus signs here, add a view. You can add up to 6 views. And so if you wanted to compare the class of 2020 to the class of 2019, you could. If you wanted to compare the class of 2020, but maybe American Indian males versus Black males, you could. You can add up to 6 different plus signs. My screen is a bit big, so you can't see, but there's others. It will only default to 4. If you need more than 4, you have to go up to this little cog. Let me go back to big. This little cog here, and when you click the little cog, maximum number of boxes, you just move it over to 6. I'm not sure where the cog is there, but it is. All right. So we are going to default back to 2020 and 2019. There's 2 ways to close the filter pane. You can either re-click at this top here, or if you scroll down to the bottom, you can click done. Both will work. I tend to click at the top since that's where I usually am. Yeah. All right. Usually this is also where we can choose a district or an area which to look at in detail. Does anyone want to volunteer their area? Excellent. Southeast it is. All right. Just for showing sakes, Mike. You ask a lot of questions, so I feel like we can call on you to demonstrate things. All right. So when you only have the statewide selected over here in 2020, what you'll see in the first pane is college enrollments. And again, if you click the eye bubble, it'll explain exactly what the report shows. These are meant to be very factual statements, very simple, clear to understand, and plain language. This report shows the percentage of high school graduates enrolling in college the fall after high school graduation. Short and sweet. What you have in the pane is you have a bar chart, and it shows you that 18% of Minnesota public high school graduates in 2020 enrolled out of state, and an additional 44% enrolled in state. And then the table will show you the counts. When you add another geography or organization filter, what you actually will see here is you will see both the statewide numbers, and we changed years. So this is actually 2019 now, as well as the region numbers. So the Southeast region enrolls a few more graduates out of state and slightly fewer in Minnesota, which most border regions would have that, by the way. If we were to change this one to include a school or district, so we'll do Fergus Falls for Megan. You actually get a statewide and a district. If you were to select a very specific school, Kennedy, you get statewide, district, and school. The one thing we like to say is when you actually take all of the filter combinations and all of the years of data, there are more than 20,000 different SLEDS reports you can create. You're not expected to know them all, so just how to get there. All right. This report is fairly straightforward, as is the second one. Where do high school graduates go to college? And again, the eye bubble will tell you, it shows the type of college attended by high school graduates in the fall. These categories, we only split the in-state schools into groups, so public 4-year, public 2-year, private 2-year, private 4-year. Keep in mind that for public, we're talking the University of Minnesota and Minnesota State colleges and universities. For private, it will include all of our private colleges and universities like University of St. Thomas. It includes cosmetology and other training schools like the Hastings Beauty School. It also will include our tribal colleges. They're listed as private. So Leech Lake, Red Lake, White Earth are included in the private 2-year category. So it's really a mix of kind of education and training. But the reason they're in this list is because they are officially recognized as offering at a minimum of college certificate by the state of Minnesota or the U.S. Department of Education. And again, here you have the counts as well as the percentages. Note, since we've not selected a demographic filter, you do get the small cells showing. If we were to go back up and add a demographic filter, the small cells are suppressed. So no filter, you can see small numbers. Filter, you can't. Demographics, though. Also, there's a version of all of this entire interface on the Secured Report website where no suppression is applied, even if you add demographic filters. So if you need to look at something in more detail without suppression, you do have that option when you access Secured Reports. All right, credits taken in the first term of college. Well, actually, factoids of the day. The majority of students who do enroll in college in the fall tend to enroll in 4-year institutions. So you can see here that 40% are enrolling in 4-year institutions as compared to 30% in 2-year institutions. However, if you go beyond immediate fall enrollment, the reverse is true. The majority of students who delay enrollment in college will tend to enroll in 2-year colleges, not 4-year colleges. All right. Oh, other functionality. If you only want to see one of these, you can turn them off. Also, if you want to export, you can click the little hamburger drawer, as it's called, and you can print the chart or download it as an image or a PDF or a vector image. And of course, to add them back, you just click them back on. Your table will not change though, just the bars. All right, the next report is credits taken in the first term of college. And why do we care about credits taken in first term of college? Why do we care? You know my favorite movie, right? Bueller. Why do we care, Bueller?
Correlated to student success.
Thank you, Steve. So
welcome.
students who enroll full time, meaning 12 credits or more, have a higher likelihood of college completion and college persistence, actually. We do say it at 12 credits or more. It is true at 15 credits or more, but most studies have been done on 12 credits or more. Yeah. And 12 credits is full-time under the federal definition, and 15 is full-time under the state definition. So there are two different definitions. And if you're in higher education, there are camps on each side of whether 12 is good enough or 15 is better. But a student who takes 12 credits per term will take 5 years to graduate if they go full-time. At 15 credits, they will take 4 years to graduate. So we're not quite sure how the U.S. Department of Ed did its math in that encouraging students to take 12 years and then expecting them to graduate in 4. It is what it is. As you can see, the majority of Minnesota high school graduates do enroll full-time at either the 12 or the 15 credit level. It's usually right around 90%. This looks to be right around 84, and for the prior year, 86. You can see it goes down. So a smaller percentage, 7% take 9 to 11, which is 3/4 time. Half time is 6 to 8. And then less than quarter time is actually 0 to 5 or 1 to 5. 0 would be nothing.
This will be an interesting to watch as we get the more updated data to see how the pandemic impacted this. If students took less credits or stuck home, so they took more, nobody really knows.
Yeah, that is a good question. The left pane here though is students who were enrolled in the pandemic, fall 2020. Whereas the right pane is students enrolled pre-pandemic, fall 2020 or fall 19. So the overall number of students changed, as you can see here, right? So we have 19 and 47, 66%, as opposed to 18 and 44, which is 62%. So we saw a drop of 4 percentage points between the right and the left years. But in terms of distribution, either by, we saw no change in distribution really by type of college and no change in distribution by credits enrolled. So if they chose to go, then they kept their college types and their enrollment levels, at least among recent high school graduates. We know that was not true among non-high school graduates, non-recent high school graduates. The next pane is always top 25 colleges attended. And this is, I think, our most requested report. So it will sort based on what the lowest organization level is. So it's sorting here by Kennedy and it's sorting here by Southeast region, but it will show kind of the top colleges. What institution is always going to be near the top of your list? Your closest community or technical college. So in terms of outreach partnerships, the closer the college is, the more likely a high school should partner with them.
This is a random question. Kennedy High School in Bloomington, right?
No, this one's Fergus Falls.
Fergus, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
Yes,
why isn't Normandale on here?
No.
Got it.
You know, high schools are named after presidents, so there's a couple. Yeah. And then the University of Minnesota automatically appears usually on everybody's list, Twin Cities and Twin Cities. And again, closer and farther, probably depends on where it is on the list. This list will also show your out-of-state institutions. So North Dakota College of Science, North Dakota State, UW La Crosse, Eau Claire, yep. Western Technical, Stout, Iowa State. When I was first in enrollment management, so data and analysis for admissions purposes, the rule of thumb was 67% of students will go to college within 8 hours of their home or 500 miles. No, 96% will go within 8 hours or 500 miles. 67% will go within like 100 miles. And having been one of those 500-mile students, I could see that. The last report is our time trends report, and this is where you can do a quick summary across years. It is always going to end with the year that you chose, which is why this one shows 2020 and this one shows 2019. But it's a good way of just looking overall how college enrollment rates are changing. And these are going to be for the smallest organizations. So we're seeing right here the rates for Southeast, and then here the rates for Fergus Falls or Kennedy High School. So you can kind of see how that looks over time. This doesn't go out cumulative though. So if we were to change Mike's area to actually show 2012, then it actually will show you 2007 through 2012. So if you want to see a longer time trend, just add another pane with an older year. And then you can see at the 9 or more year mark for 2007, we actually still have 1% who enrolled in college after 9 years or more. For the first time, by the way, for their first enrollment was 9 years after they graduated from high school. So cumulatively, these add to 84% of 2007 graduates from the Southeast region enrolled in college within 9 years. Well, it's actually between 2007 and 2021, likely. So 14 years. Statewide, we like to say between 80 and 85% of high school graduates will enroll in college by age 25. So it's not college or career, it's college and career. Because almost everybody will step foot on a college sometime in their adult life. Even if it's just for quick training. The time trends eye bubble is, of course, pretty simple. The percent of high school graduates by time of enrollment and year of high school graduation. And your more information pane. This is where you're going to see the notes. There are a couple of things. There are going to be notes in here. So this explains that Minnesota Public High School graduates are students with records of a status ENCODE 8 or 9. These data are not the same student cohorts as MD's high school graduation rate cohorts. High school graduation rate cohorts are 9th grade entry students. SLEDS graduation cohorts are exit students exiting in a given year. It also provides you a link to the data interpretation guide and the Getting Prepared report, which has some different tables and analysis and a Tableau dashboard. Students do come in with multiple graduation records, especially if they're on the Alternative Learning Center and a high school. They may get reported twice in the data, even in different years, but we always are choosing the last year reported. The bottom ones is if you want to see all students, all high schools, all years, you click the download web report and it opens up a Excel file. Which will open on the wrong screen for you to see it. And it is all of the basic counts, but for all the years available and for all the organizations. And the second tab which apparently we don't get to click on today. Oh, I broke it. Shows you the colleges attended. Okay, maybe it'll fix them. Yep. If you need this type of data dump with a filter added, you want to ask a SLEDS coordinator, because if they have access to the warehouse, this is a table inside the SLEDS warehouse where they can just run a quick query and filter or add a filter, and then they can dump it out for you as well. Small cells likely won't be suppressed in that version, so they may need to suppress it before sending it to you, or ask you to do the suppression, because under your DSA, you have that privilege of seeing unsuppressed numbers. But just FYI, you will have to apply suppression before using it publicly. Cool. Questions about the enrollment report? That's all there is to it. There's actually quite a bit here. We were going to add majors, weren't we, Steve? Didn't we talk about adding majors?
Top 25 majors of enrollment
Yeah.
and completion are in there somewhere. I think they're in the completing college tab.
All right. So we'll go and jump to completing college if there's no other questions about enrollment. Go to completing college, you want to click this here. One thing to note, your categories that you picked here will carry over when you click. So we should see 2 reports with the same years and the same filters. Yep. The one distinction is our Kennedy High School report has actually switched to 2019, which is the latest year available. Our college completions data always follows slightly behind enrollment data, so the year will be a year different until the spring load, or until the fall load is completed, so until January. Completing college is how many students succeed, so this looks at students continuing through and graduating from college. And actually, our year changed over here because we had it set to 2013, didn't we? Yeah. So you have the same setup. In this report, persistence is going to look at the number and percent of high school graduates enrolled in college and continuing under their 2nd, 3rd, or 4th academic year. So we always lose a few students with each kind of step in that. We're going to jump back a year so you can actually see the 4th year as well. Go. All right, so for Kennedy High School versus statewide, so statewide, 84% of students who enrolled made it to their 2nd year. The one key difference between this report and the enrollment report is the enrollment report is focused on students enrolling in the fall after high school. Persistence and completion look at students enrolling at any time after high school. So if a student enrolls after 9 years, they will be added to the cohort. And if they last a year 2, then they're added to the year 2 bar. So these will continue to update as time goes on and more students enroll in college.
So Meredith, is this updated twice a year so that if somebody joins in the spring, they'll be counted?
So, yes, because National Student Clearinghouse updates twice a year. OHE data updates twice a year as well for enrollment, but not completion. Yeah. So it is updated twice a year. Yep. The counts. New graduates are only added in the January release, January release. Because they have to have at least data for 1 year of college, and the NSC data isn't quite comprehensive enough for us to do it with just the NSC load. So of those students who start in college, in which, by the way, you have the counts down here in row 1, 84% persisted to year 2 statewide as compared to 83% at Kennedy. But then we see drops. So you lose. So we lost 16% of students between year 1 and year 2. We lose an additional 10% of students between year 2 and year 3. Then we lose an additional, 15% of students between year 3 and year 4. So we kind of, it's that trickle out of the pipeline. And I will say, because this is 2018, that these year 3 and year 4 numbers are probably larger losses than in a previous year. So if I were to, I'm going to change the Southeast to be 2015. So here the statewide difference goes from 84 to 76. So that's an 8 percentage point loss to 70, which is only a 6 percentage point loss. So because this crosses the pandemic, we are seeing higher rates or lower rates of persistence or completion among students who were enrolled during the pandemic. Because this would have been the 2018, 2019. No, this would have been 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021, and 21, 22. NSC data. Anything I'm missing? This one? Nope. Here's our new report, top 25 majors of enrollment. So here you get the award level and the major. An associate degree in liberal arts is the min-state transfer curriculum. So these are students who are intending, and these are students actually, since we're looking at Kennedy, are likely at Minnesota State Community and Technical College intending to transfer to a 4-year institution. Then you always have business and health sciences are always the next ones. And in the Southeast region, we see that education is another big one.
What's with the visual and performing arts? That's unusual.
I don't know. Does Minnesota State Community and Technical College have a big visual performing arts program? Huh. I mean, it's a small town, but it even shows up over here. So. The eye bubble, of course. So the eye bubble does tell you that it's their last reported major declared. So if they were in psychology and transferred to engineering or performing arts, they get moved categories. Yeah. Also, there should be a large number of unknowns unless we suppress them. Nope, we must have suppressed them to show only those with declared majors. The majority of freshmen come in with an unknown major. So you can't always tell in their first year exactly what their program of study will be.
Also at the 2-year colleges, a lot of times if they're planning to transfer, they don't bother to tell the 2-year what their major is because they're just grabbing credits and moving on.
Okay. The next pane is more about completing college. Oh, and I should have mentioned on the first pane, these are 84% means in year 2 they were still enrolled or had graduated with some sort of credential. And the same would apply for years 3 and year 4. Year 4 means 59% were still enrolled or had graduated. So when you scroll down to the highest undergrad, these are specifically just graduated. So, and remember, this is an older year. This is 2015 versus 2019. So you can see here that those statewide, you have the counts and a percentage. So the 15% is actually all credentials, certificates, diplomas, or degrees. 15% of all students enrolling in college, not 15% of all high school graduates. And these numbers should add to this bottom number. And if the percents don't quite add up, please note it's rounding. It's not a math error, it's likely rounding. So you can definitely see time-wise, the longer a student has to complete, the more likely they are to complete. Actually, I want to fix something. This percent is not the percent of those enrolling in college, it's the percent of all high school graduates, because the average graduating class is about 60,000. So this has to be of all high school graduates. So make a note to correct your mind. Ignore what I said the first time.
So if we look at Kennedy High School, it looks like roughly a quarter is 36, so they have like 120 some grads.
Yep.
Okay.
And Southeast region has approximately 5,000, 6,000, 5,600. You can always check it by going back to the previous page. Time to college completion. Not everybody graduates in the same time frame. If they have a shorter certificate program, they'll graduate faster than if they have a longer program like a bachelor's degree. And if they go part-time, it'll take them longer in terms of calendar time than it will if they go full-time. So you'll start out here with 1 to 4 years, 5 to 6, and 7 to 8. You'll only get a row if they've passed that 4-year mark. So given that we're looking at the class of 2018 on the left side, you only see the 1 to 4 years. But in future iterations of SLEDS, you'll actually, the 5 to 6 will pop up and then the 7 to 8. There's actually a 9 or more as well. So if we were to switch Southeast to be even an older cohort, we'll go all the way back to 2006 for you. Oh, it didn't pop up. All right, write that one down for IT. It should say 9 or more. And you should note on this pane here, I forgot to mention, 50% is usually the statewide average. So this class actually did better than the statewide average, but they had a longer time frame. This is the class of 2006. And then Southeast did even better than the statewide average at 61%. This, because we were only 3 years in, you're at a quarter and 15%. But the minute, if we were to jump back a year, you can see how fast it changes. Years 4 and 5 are pretty big changes. Oops. So between year 3 and year 4, we're jumping from 15% to 39%. And then if we were to go back even one more year, year 5, we're now at 49%, closer to that 50% mark. 50% is always a good rule of thumb, but it will vary based on how old the cohort you're looking at is. Great. And then the last report is the top 25 majors of graduates. So these are students who actually finished their program of study. So you see that the transfer curriculum is still number 1, and the business management number 2, and then over here, business management, health professions, and education. The big difference between this list of majors and the previous list of majors is if you have a program that for some reason doesn't graduate a lot of their students. I don't know which programs those would be. Maybe engineering. There are some more rigorous programs.
Well, Meredith, could that be partially the difference for the liberal arts line, where if folks transfer up before completing?
Yes, you don't have to complete before transferring to a 4-year. Yeah, though the majority of 2-year students who transfer actually transfer to another 2-year college. So yeah. They might take classes at more than one community and technical college before transferring to their 4-year institution. All right. The last thing for this one is the more information's report. And again, it's very similar, the same notes as the enrollment report. And then the download web report would give you that Excel document of all years, all organizations, and geography for the persistence and completion data. We created these download web reports because we kept getting asked for all high schools, all years. So we finally just completed them. You also have a link to the data interpretation guide, which if you click on it is in dire need of updating, which I think is on Nora's list. But the last update was 2018, but it will tell you how to kind of what kind of is included in the post-secondary enrollment data. Yep, as well as the completions data, and then the National Student Clearinghouse data. Questions about completing college? Things we should add to completing college? Nope. All right, can you hang in for another 15 minutes? We have one more report to go. Developmental education. So, Steve can probably quote you this, but SLEDS and the Office of Higher Education in Min-State use the term developmental education because the term remedial education has a deficit kind of frame as opposed to developmental, which means you're building on students' prior skills. You'll see us use the term developmental instead of remedial pretty much in every publication we do. So we kept our regions, Kennedy and Southeast, but now the year of high school graduate has bounced back to 2020 for these because it's an enrollment report. You enroll in developmental education credits to be part of this report. So you can see here the eye bubble. The report provides info on high school graduates enrolled in developmental education courses within 2 years of high school graduation. And why did we choose 2 years? Because number one, it's the state mandated reporting time frame. And number two, it's because students, if they take developmental education, are likely going to take them right away or near the beginning of their college program, because they'll likely need them to qualify to move into other required courses. Developmental here refers to credits offered by the institution to prepare students for success in college level work. And again, more of an asset-based framing. The first report is just enrollment. And so if you look, this report shows the students enrolled in one or more developmental education credits during fall term at a Minnesota college within 2 years of high school graduation. Did we add spring term data to this one, Steve? This is the one I can't remember. It's fall term only prior to 2017.
Right. In getting prepared, yeah, now you've got me trying to remember too. We did have to go in and update.
I think we left it as fall to keep it standard across time.
That's right.
But at some point in the future, we'll change to fall and spring when we reach that closer to that 8-year mark. The first thing you should note is that these percentages are going to be small. The percentages of students and high school graduates enrolling in developmental education has been falling over the last decade and a half. It's not necessarily been falling because students are smarter and high schools are teaching them better. It's also partially due to the fact that colleges are changing how they offer developmental education supports. So they changed their placement practices. So before students might need to take the AccuPlacer. Now Min-State uses a more holistic assessment. And more recently, GPA has become a heavier factor in the placement. There's also state law which allows a student to not be placed in developmental education based on their ACT score, their MCA scores, or their SAT score. So there are some automatic outs for students.
Also, this is based on enrollment, not necessarily placement. So correct. It's not that uncommon with people who have math anxiety to, if they're in a non-STEM related area, to put off taking their math. And if they end up not completing and leaving, oftentimes they leave before they take their math. So it's not perfect, but that's consistent, I think, across time.
Yes. Also, if math is not required for their program of study. Yeah. This does require them to actually enroll in a course. So one of the changes Minnesota State has implemented is what's called co-requisite, meaning that the student will take a college level course and supplemental supports alongside the college level course to provide that developmental education support, but it may not be for credit. And if it's not for credit, it would not be counted in this report. They might also go to a boot camp or a special study session. I can't remember what they're called anymore. I'm losing my mind. where they can actually make up those pre-college level skills in advance of taking their college level course. But again, it's not for credit, so we don't count it in this report. That said, I still believe Minnesota students are doing great, which is why the rate is falling. So you see here for Kennedy, we're looking at 14% and 15% for Southeast, which is slightly higher than the statewide average of 11%. Most college courses are between 3 and 4 credits per course. So what you see here is the average number of credits is 4.94 statewide and 3.13 at Kennedy, which means one class typically on average, but statewide maybe 1 to 2. In Southeast, it's definitely leaning closer to the 1 to 2 because it's a higher. 6 credits would be 2 courses. And Nora's right. The number one course students take developmental education in is math. So, when referring to developmental education, we always talk about Minnesota State for this reason. 96% of developmental education courses are offered by a Minnesota State college or university. Almost 80% of those are offered by a 2-year Minnesota State college. The University of Minnesota and private colleges typically do not offer developmental courses, especially if they're higher selectivity, they just won't admit the student at all. There are a few exceptions to the rule, of course, but yeah. Very few students take developmental education at a non-Min State institution. In the private sector, it's largely also because if they're a small training program, such as cosmetology, they don't have developmental education because they're a technical training program. In terms of ACT scores, this relationship is really not that dramatic of a finding. Students with higher ACT scores tend to students with lower ACT scores tend to enroll in developmental education at a higher rate. So here you see that the average ACT score for those not in developmental education statewide was 16.4 versus 22.3 for those not enrolled in developmental education. Did I just mix those up? Blue is enrolled, green is not enrolled in DevEd. And this relationship you'll see across years and across times. Across years and across schools in areas. Completion. So this is looking at the students who actually successfully complete college based on their developmental education. Because we've had such a late year, 2020, we have no completion data. So we're going to jump back to 2015. And then when you look at the completing college, we have some small cells here. And the University of Minnesota doesn't have many people. 50% of those in developmental education completed college. 32% at a public 2-year and 42% at a private 4-year. But again, very small numbers for those. We should really, Steve, can you make a note? We should add numbers to this table. Count.
Yeah, that's right. Will do.
Also, the title on this is wrong. Because if it were by developmental education status, you'd have an enrolled in DevEd, not enrolled in DevEd comparison, whereas these appear to enrolled in only DevEd students, I'm assuming.
Right, this is saying completion rates of developmental education students, right? Yeah.
Correct. That needs a title change. Developmental education, again, you have 2 camps on this one. You have a camp that says developmental education is a barrier to students. It creates more classes for them to take. It requires them to pay higher costs in tuition. It undermines their confidence in their ability to do college level work. Therefore, they're less likely to persist, less likely to complete. That's camp 1. Camp 2 is developmental education supports are supports. They are intended to provide the college students with wraparound services or other supports to allow them to be successful in their college level course and therefore more likely to persist and complete in college. And actually what the research shows is Camp 2 is actually right if the student successfully completes developmental education courses. If they are successful at getting past the barrier, they're actually more successful at completing college. If they can't get past the dev ed courses, then they're not more successful at completing college. So it's kind of a mixed kind of bag of results there. But colleges have been innovating on ways to get more students through developmental education, and because of political pressures, they've been investing more in those. And so hopefully we'll see the completion rates for college students in dev ed start to increase. The last pane of course is your trends over time. The statewide trend, which is the blue line that you can't quite see, has been just stable but edging downward across time. When I first started doing this report with the class of 2008, it's actually closer to 30%, 32%. And of course, by 2018, statewide, we were at 22% and edging downward. The 2020 data only includes 1 year or 1 semester of data, so it's going to keep going up. And so just note this rate is likely preliminary. And finally, your more information tab, again, it provides a link to the Getting Prepared report, which is officially the state mandated report on developmental education written by the Office of Higher Education. We tend to include in that report, at least every other year, a description of what's actually being done by colleges in realms of dev ed and what the state requires. So it's a more descriptive report that you should read if you want to learn about policies and practices of colleges in this area. Cool. And at 4:12, we covered dev ed in 12 minutes. But what questions do you have? That was a lot of information in 45 minutes. I should look at the PowerPoint to see if I've missed anything. Hold on. But questions while I'm quickly going through? Brenda, did you have a question? No?
I'm guessing 4 o'clock on a Monday, everybody's pretty, and especially the change of time really feels like 5 o'clock. I bet everybody's brain is pretty much gone.
Yeah. Correct. I did miss one thing on enrollment. So we're going to jump back here. Credits taking in college. This is only available for students at Minnesota colleges. The data provided by the Student Clearinghouse isn't really good enough sometimes to place everybody in these categories. So just FYI. But it's comprehensive for students at a Minnesota college. That's the only comment I missed from the PowerPoint. All right. Well, you've completed your first training. I feel like we should give you take home homework, but as usual, I'll give you the usual network kind of advice. Go in and look at your schools, see who's different, and then ask Nora as to why, because that'll give her something to follow up on too. Yeah. And also think to yourselves, what are those schools or colleges in that area doing differently? Yeah.
Say, Meredith, it might be worth a note on this pane then about that, since we show the counts of students, to clarify that this does not include out-of-state enrollments.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. We also relabeled we decided to relabel one of the panes on the Dev Ed report, Nora. Cool. It's only when you try to explain it that these little things come up.
That's
Yeah.
right.
The other thing you might want to do is look at a higher income school or district in the state versus a lower income one. That will provide you with some very clear distinctions on how economic status impacts our students, as well as probably district resources. Cool. All right. Well, I think we can stop recording. And then our next training session is in December, and it will cover academics. So we'll do high school academics, rigorous course taking electives, ACT. And then the third one will be in out-of-state enrollment and entering the workforce. Yeah, for the high school reports. Yeah. Cool. Well, it's great to see everybody. So I hope you had a good time and remember a little bit more than you did before the training now. But cool. Nora, any
Okay,
final
it's
words?
not letting me stop the recording for whatever reason.
Oh, let me stop sharing and see if that'll do it. Well, apparently, well, it'll stop when you leave the meeting.
Yeah, I guess it will.
Email Nora if you have any questions and I'll help her answer them and get back to you.
All
Thanks,
right.